Well, Margaret, thank you for coming down, and I say down, from Ohio, down and across to Austin, and bringing these wonderful paintings that you've done already. I really like your paintings, especially the last one, the composition on that one. And all of these, you used your own source material. You took your own photographs, and so I'm very impressed with just the compositions. And that last one was just, I don't know, I really love that painting. I mean, what I want to tell you first of all is, just in general, and this is true about this painting, but especially about the last one, and we talked about this a little bit, is that I really, even though I can be critical of your paintings and talk about, the fact that I think your colors are milky, and I'll get into that, and some of the, overworking that we had talked about a little bit when you first came into the studio. But in general, what I really love about your paintings, like in a really big way, is just these compositions, the way these backgrounds are balanced, and you're really taking a lot of liberties. This is the source picture, and you've obviously, did a really nice job in creating all this background and making it work. So, that's a matter of taste, but I really like, and that's very difficult to do. It's abstract, you've got some nice color shift, you got the browns, the greens, it's fully abstract. You've even got some nice, I love these oranges, that's the full spectrum is going on in your greens. Maybe not quite as much right here, but it's wonderful. You know what I mean? It's got, it's not just monochromatic green, there's a lot of depth to that, and that's really nice. In general, when I'm looking at your source material, and this is something that I really want to my main, thing that I think I can help you with is that you need to have better source material. And, you're so good, you're putting so much work into these paintings, and by working from a photograph like this one, where these colors are completely blown out, I'd have to show you what a good photograph looks like, but the difference is dramatic. And so because this is sort of blown out, these colors here, you did a faithful job, but the combination of the fact that the photograph was blown out, and maybe you did a little bit of overblending, which might have, made the colors a little more milky or whatever. But that's the first thing, is that source material. If you had a better, and as far as how to do that, I can talk about it to you later, but just for the benefit of the viewers, how do you get good source material? You get a decent digital camera, you don't overexpose it, you do all those things, and I have some videos that talk about that, but I've got a photo guide on Draw Mix Paint that really goes in depth, and anybody that really wants to teach themselves to take good photographs can get into that, and even watch my videos where I talk about all that. I've got a video, and it's called something about, let's see, what is the name of it? Oh, I remember what it was, Value Misconceptions. And in that video, I talk about how to get how important it is to get a good exposure and not to blow out your highlights and everything else. And it's something that's really easy to do, but and I actually mentioned this in that video. But the simplest thing you can do is when you bring this into Lightroom or Photoshop and you're going to, try to decide what the exposure of your source photo is, start by taking the exposure slider and sliding it all the way to the dark side, where it's way too dark, and then slowly bring it up. Go get a cup of coffee, let your brain kind of reset, and then slowly bring it up to where you think the value is acceptable. And you'll very likely you'll end up with a much darker exposure doing it that way, where typically when you pull it in they tend to be too bright, and you're trying to bring it down, and when you're doing that comparison, your brain tells you, I like the brighter better. It's a weird thing, but that's the one thing. And then the other thing I wanted to say about this painting, and it's really, I've noticed in the others as well, is the subtlety thing. And so I talk about the number one question when you're looking at your source and you're saying, what's the difference between this neck and that neck? And if I say, you know, there's some contours here, right? But if I said to you, which is more subtle, I would say that these contours are more defined. They've got more sculpting. There's more, you know, so it's a little bit more,
a little too
more
much
definition, a little bit too, as opposed to subtle. And that goes for, like, for instance, the vein here. Well, it's, you know, you actually did a pretty good job on that one. I was going to say this vein, but even so, it's very slightly, the tendency, so yours kind of goes a little further. The tendency is to want to see it and to want to make it more defined. And so always, when you step back, if you see a pattern in the fur or you see some rippled muscles or whatever, the question is, yours should always be just as subtle as it is in the source.
Okay.
But it's one of the weird things about the which is more subtle question, is it's not, you don't think to ask it. You'll notice the nose is too small. You'll notice the angle's wrong. You'll notice that, you know, that the forehead's lopsided. But you'll never stop and ask yourself, are the wrinkles on somebody's forehead more subtle in the source or in my? And almost always people will define things more. Yeah. And that's a real big no-no. In fact, that's really what defines, that will make a huge difference in your work. I mean, your work is really good. It's totally professional level. It's fantastic. But to take it to that next level, it's very often it's that subtle question. You know, we've got a second part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you did this painting again. You tried to do less blending, more painting ugly.
Yes.
And I'll show them that. But tell me your story now that I've asked you.
Well, I've been in the visual arts most of my life, all of my life really, and I went to art school. I studied at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia and Syracuse University and the University of Hartford, and I studied illustration. And I did a lot of commercial work and illustrations and graphic design and things like that. But about 5 years ago, I started to really focus on traditional realist painting. And
so just 5 years ago, was that when you first started painting?
In oil?
Yeah.
I did oil off and on before then, but full time, yes. I've worked in watercolor and pen and ink before that. I did a lot of cartoons and lighthearted things and watercolor. Lots of children and editorial stuff. So
right, sort of illustrative stuff. And,
yeah.
Right.
So it was completely different from this.
About 5 years ago, was the first time you tried to sort of paint oil realism.
Yes, like this more serious.
Right.
So like this one was on the toned canvas, but it was, you know, direct, and I'm trying to paint faster. So the one that I brought, I painted in one day. So that was better.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so I kind of like that process of just getting the brush strokes down, and rather than the underpainting. So
right. And you know, a lot of times, you know, when you paint wet and wet, sometimes it seems tedious, sometimes it seems slow. A lot of the prep work, especially if you're doing the hardcore, color mixing and everything. But actually, the whole process from beginning to end is actually pretty short and very fast compared to a lot of the other methods.
Once you get those colors mixed?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. Can I put that? Let's take a look. This is the one you painted in one day. So how many hours did it take you?
It took me most of the day. I think
most of the day.
Yeah,
so.
I started it in the morning and was done by dinner time. But
yeah.
But it was really hard not to blend. But I was following what you had said in that one video about not blending.
Yeah, well, I certainly like this one more than the other one.
Yeah, I do.
I don't think there's anything missing. In fact, I think that your values may be even better in this one. I still think that you're still getting a little bit more over-defining, and that might be a color checking thing. If you look at, I don't know, it's hard for me to tell because, like you said, that just a little bit more. There's a little bit more contour here, so that is still there. But in terms of the way it's painted, especially the head, it's just wonderful. So you had painted a lot of horses, and this is the one that is not a horse. I really like this one as well. Can I take a look at the source photo?
Yeah.
So, by the way, do you laminate these, and are you?
No, but I want to start after. Like I said, I've seen a couple of these videos and seen what people get out of those. That's my next thing is to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and well, one of the things that I noticed, first of all, that shirt is just, I mean, whatever made you think, well, yeah, I'll actually attempt that. I think I would have said, I think I'll give him a striped shirt.
That's an idea.
No, that's good. So the over-defining thing, that this is a real classic, is the vein in his hand. Do you see how much more defined yours is?
Yeah, now I do.
Yeah. So that's something that I think, I don't need to keep repeating that, but that's really the one. That's even something that I tell my people that take my private class. I say, write this on an index card and stick it on your studio wall.
Okay.
And that is, don't ever forget which is more subtle. It's the number one, what's the difference question that doesn't get answered. All right, so, but then the other thing is I'd say that like some of these colors up in here, there's some really nice, I don't know if that's like reflecting off the red clay soil in here in his face, but the color, this is more of a grayish color. But there's especially like around the eyes where the blood is, and people, there's always a sort of a redness that's almost imperceptible. But yeah, it's really, that's really the only thing, is that the color's a little more milky, a little bit overworked. You recognize that as far as the overblending and overworking in the horse, which you just are working on right now that we just showed, that's where I need to hit go. But you know how to do it, right? I mean, was it hard to do that, by the way?
Yeah, I had to pay attention to just about everything that I did, and so I suppose what I need to do is just practice that more.
Yeah, just keep doing it, because it's wonderful. It doesn't ever look good up close. The temptation is to go in there and sort of
paint every eyelash.
And make it so you can see it up close and make it look good. Well, this was my favorite, and you said you painted it a while ago. I did. But I really especially love the composition of it, and love the fact that it's, I don't know how you got these horses like that. It looks like they're on the set of a movie or something, and they've got that sort of, spirit in them. Can I take a look at the...
Yeah. This is a draft horse competition. We held it in our county every year, and the horses just do that.
Yeah.
And they're really into it, actually.
But you've this background. When did you
I
put
took
this
out
in
the background.
in Photoshop?
Yeah, the background was stands with people and trucks and other horses, and it was really complex. So I just took it out altogether.
Yeah, you're really good at that. I really like that. I love the way that this comes across. The color change, the blue over here and the greens, and how that works with the hair on his back, the fur where it's catching the blue light. You had to figure all that out. It's not in the photo. Then here, you've got the greens and the more earthy colors, and all that makes sense, and you obviously didn't get it from the photograph, so that's really fantastic.
Yeah,
I guess that's your illustrative experience.
That might have been. This one, I had a couple photos printed, but they were all basically the same with the background cut out. But this was one that I actually did have a monochromatic underpainting, and then went over it with layers of color.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think what this does is, to me, it illustrates that you really do have a lot of natural ability, or I shouldn't call it natural ability, but the ability that you've developed over the years, or whatever it is. And so I think that some of this is, you can see the illustrative, bent to it, so to speak. And I, for one, don't like to categorize things as one or the other. You can take an incredible painting, and if you put it in a children's storybook, all of a sudden people are calling it illustrative, or whatever. So I think that in this case, it's both, and it could certainly be. This is far more than this photo, and it's better than the photo. And so all those things are wonderful, and it's why I like it. I like it this is a huge part of the composition, these colors and the way it changes and moves, and even the light here is a huge part of the emotion that the painting has. There's a little bit of a not mysterious isn't the right word, but it's sort of like, that there's something happening, and all of this works with that. So anyway, in other words, this is all you. This is not in the photo.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
So on the one hand, I love that, and I think you should continue to, do paintings that incorporate that into it. But now, on the pure realism side, it's going to be the same thing where you're just over sculpting, over defining, and where you've lost. Where here, there's almost hardly any of the sculpting that I see in your. But that's part of. It kind of doesn't take away from it. So, I've said this before, but Edward Hopper is one of my very top artists in the world. Absolute favorites, and I don't think he can really paint realism very well. I mean, at least his values are off and his colors are off. But so there's two things going on. There's the art, and if I hung this in my little girl's room, and they looked at it every day for 10 years, they would very much have this would be in their memory for life. This painting has got a lot to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so none of that has anything to do with whether you've painted your realism perfectly or not. So we're done, but we can just keep talking. So I'd like to just make sure that I've answered any questions that you have about anything.
I think what the biggest takeaway is after I said I was coming out here in July, I started watching all these videos again, and I'm going to go back to basics. And this has been a very good experience for me, just because I kind of was on this path and I wasn't progressing as much as I really wanted to. And so this has sort of grounded me and brought me back. And I'm going to do the laminated photographs, the better prints, and try to do the color checking and then the painting ugly, I think.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, like, without any doubt whatsoever, I mean, I'm telling you, that if you go and you get your source photo figured out where you're getting really top notch, and I'll show you you've probably seen some of the stuff. When you see it in print form, and it's just top fantastic, then that's number one. And if you do that, and then you do what you've already shown that you can do where you're painting the loose, not over blending like you did that horse head, that's fantastic. The only thing there was that one thing where you're just over defining, making you're sort of sculpting a little more than is there. And so if you get that which is more subtle thing figured out, which is not a big deal, I know you'll get it. It's just a matter of knowing to ask the question. There's nothing stopping you from painting just, I mean, top, and but the last, hurdle for you is probably this over blending, which this is, you said, how many years ago was this one painted?
4 or 5.
4 or 5 years ago, So this, I'm glad that you're going to try to get over the over blending, because that's where you get the milky colors. That's where you get the sort of lose the texture. Because you got to have the texture. It makes a big difference. And it doesn't matter if the texture looks like fur. You just got to have some texture, and as long as the values are right and the colors are right, it'll look wonderful. Do you know what I mean when I say that? If you know that horse head that I painted, did you see that video?
Yes.
So if you look at that fur, and there's some shots where I've zoomed in and look at it, there's nothing fur. It doesn't look like fur. There's nothing about the texture that has anything to do with fur.
Yeah.
It's really weird. We think that we're supposed to make fur texture, but you're not. It doesn't matter. It can be anything. As long as the values are right and the colors are right, we see fur and it looks great. It's a weird thing. So you've got the skills. I mean, I hope you do know that you can do it. I mean, do you have any doubt that you can just paint like, I mean,
I'm working on it. I'm still trying to maintain the abstraction and just sort of get the confidence in the brushstrokes and also paint faster, because I'm taking too long. Some of these pictures take way too long, and I need to be more immediate and get it down the first time, because this painting I worked this over and over, and I suppose if I had better reference, then I wouldn't have to make stuff up, because some of the stuff I did make up. So I don't know. But
well, it's good, and I hope that you enjoy painting.
Oh, well, very much.
Oh, good.
Yeah, loved it.
Well, that's what makes a difference, you know.
Yeah.
Is that the frustration level and the you know, those have to be.
Well, I get that frustration level, and then I just go do something else for a couple of days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do.
Right.
It is a lot of fun, and it's fun to progress. And
Yeah.
but
Cool.
yeah.